Good evening. Welcome to today's meeting of the Lebanon Redevelopment Commission. Today is Tuesday, November 13th, and we'll, as tradition, we'll call it to order first. Apparently I'm a little stumbling today, but anyways, we'll call this meeting to order, and we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask that Dr. Taylor lead us this evening, please.
Thank you very much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. Appreciate that. We don't have too full of an agenda this evening, so we will try to move quickly to keep everybody else on schedule. Right, so we will do the roll call first. Thank you, newly elected Vice President. Please let the record reflect that all members are present this evening. So the first order of business will be the approval of minutes, and we have multiple sessions to approve. First of all, we'll look at July 9th. Do we need to vote on these individually, or can we approve?
Whatever you fancy.
Preference of does the commission have a preference?
I do not, Mr. President. If we want, we can do a consent agenda for those minutes,
Sure.
but I'll leave that to your discretion.
So do we need to make a motion for that? To vote on all three?
Probably ought to do them separate because I wasn't on the board
Okay.
at the July meeting.
Okay, very good. So we'll just do it one at a time then. Thank you, Mr. Robertson. So we will start with the approval of the minutes from July 9th. Any comments from the commission?
I motion we approve the July 9th meeting minutes.
Second that motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Very good. Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to the minutes from the August 13th meeting. And are there any comments from the commission?
Make a motion we accept the minutes for August 13th as presented.
Thank you very much. Second that motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Very good. Motion carries. On to the third set of minutes we need to approve this evening. Let's talk about the October 9th meeting. Any comments from the commission? I would entertain a motion.
I motion we approve the October 9th meeting minutes.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Very good. Motion carries. Okay, so that is the approval of minutes. I don't see anything listed under old business. Is there any comments, questions, statements that the commission would like to make about topics we've covered in the past?
Mr. President, I would simply like to make note for the record that the work that we have supported in the past around the town square and some of the gateway work, I'm extremely pleased with the progress and the outcome of that work. I know there's been some inconvenience, and I appreciate the support of the local businesses and some of the input we've had, but I have to tell you, as a two-decade resident of our community, I'm very pleased when I drive by that. I think it's made a significant difference, and so I compliment those that brought that to this group, and I compliment my fellow commissioners on our support of the projects.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. I'd like to echo that thought, definitely, for the record. I'd also like to say that I took a detour on the way here today and stopped by and saw those lights over Meridian, and that is a game changer. That looks fantastic. So if we can continue that type of progress and that type of development, then hopefully we'll all be able to make more statements like you just did. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so, and I would like to commend the commission. I know it's been a lot of work, a lot of reading, and a lot of research, and maybe some grief from folks that you're friends with or family. So either way, it's been a journey, and it looks great. So, and that also extends to the rest of the folks, all those folks involved. So we know that Mr. Krulik and Von Traeger over there have done an incredible amount of work, so thank you for that as well. So let's move on to new business. Looks like there's only one item on that agenda for this evening, which is the declaratory resolution for the Gateway Marketplace project. No, wrong one. Excuse me. That would be, scratch that, the Patterson Street project. We've already done the Gateway. So this, just for the record, the declaratory resolution, is that just a reading for this evening?
We would look for action on that.
We would look for action this evening. Okay, so if you could just give us the high-level look at that, appreciate that. We'll welcome Ben to the podium as well.
So do you want to read the resolution, or you want me to talk about the project?
If you'd like to, I leave it up to Mr. Commissioner.
Let's go ahead and talk about the project first, and then we'll read the resolution, because that'll give us some details to see if they're all in there in that resolution.
Very good. Good evening, Commission members. Talk a little bit about this, what I think is while it might not be a sexy project like some of them we've done, this is a very exciting project for me to be able to take a look at here. This is the former Prairie Industries building on Patterson Street, which, as many of you know, has sat vacant for a number of years. It is falling apart. It looks terrible, and it's right along our trail route. And top it off with the fact that there's significant environmental issues with this site. So it's kind of the trifecta of issues that have really meant that this site has really just been deteriorating and is really just a big challenge for us as a community moving forward. We have identified a group that has since purchased this building. Enviro Forensics is a firm that specializes kind of in being an intermediary, whereas they clean up and prep a site for redevelopment, and then they sell it to a developer who then looks to develop the piece of property. One of the biggest challenges with this site moving on is that even though it can be cleaned up, it can't be cleaned up effectively to the point where we could use it for anything but industrial development. So what we're looking at here is both a significant demolition, and then they have to excavate, I don't remember how many feet of dirt out of the site just to get it out and get it cleaned up. There's a significant several $1 million cost just to prep the site before a group can come in and redevelop. And what's proposed here is is between a $5 and $6 million speculative industrial building. They'll be redeveloped on this site. It'll include the required parking and truck access areas, and also just an additional benefit is it'll unbury the main sanitary line going to our treatment plant, which is directly to the west. So right now the main line that goes to our plant is going underneath that building. So this project will basically get a building off of that easement, off of that line, and allow us to establish an easement for that sanitary line so we can do some maintenance on it in the future as it might be necessary. So the project here, the big challenge here is with that significant site prep cost, it makes it very challenging to be able to develop the property efficiently and effectively and market it at a rate that makes the most sense for the market in Lebanon. So what we're looking at here is establishing a new TIF district. This would be the first step tonight, which would be a declaratory resolution for the economic development area and the economic development plan. And as part of that, the developer will be purchasing, it'll be a developer purchase bond, so they would be accepting all the risk associated with the project, but it would be a 25-year bond, wherein that they would receive the increment generated by the project back to that entity that purchases the bond. And as we looked at it, that was the most effective way the city could participate and help offset some of those significant initial costs that they're going to have to bear in order to get this site ready to do anything with other than be a deteriorating old industrial building. So that's what's before you tonight, is that initial resolution that starts the process to set up that TIF allocation area. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
So first of all, when I see that area, there's always has to be development next to residential, but there's a ton of residential around there.
Yeah.
And if we zone that purely industrial, that means that just about anyone could use the facility. Where my concern would be is that if that becomes a multi-shift or a manufacturing facility, it will cause a great deal of noise for the surrounding residents. Has that been discussed? Has that been analyzed? Where are we at on that?
So kind of that, the first thing I want to say is it's already zoned industrial.
Okay.
So this doesn't require any changes. It's already zoned industrial. Our comprehensive plan suggests it should be industrial, regardless of whether I feel that that's the appropriate use for that area. That is what it is. And while I would love to see it go something more residential, the cost associated with cleanup to get anywhere close to being to be able to accommodate residential is so high that it'll never happen. In fact, it may not even be physically possible just because of how much contamination is on that site. So we're kind of meeting them halfway. This is a light manufacturing at best type of facility. This isn't something that would accommodate a heavy industrial user. It's more of a light, fully enclosed, maybe assembly operation, distribution, those sorts of things. Kind of what's directly to the north of them in the other building that's right along the street. So,
As I say, has Global Plastics expressed any interest that
They're-
you are aware of in expanding or moving?
I don't know that they ever needed this building. It was kind of a package deal when they bought those two buildings. They never really wanted it, but they didn't have a choice. So I
see.
think they're happy to have it off their hands. I don't think they,
Okay.
at this point that I'm aware of, have any interest in expanding back into the building.
Okay.
If I understand correctly, and I may not, so please excuse my question here if it's inappropriate, but the developer will assume the liability for the bond
That's correct.
all those 25 years?
Yes, there will be an entity that purchases that bond. They assume all risk and liability associated with the bond.
So regardless of whatever the EPA determination or the cleanup determination, if they're into the project, the bond's theirs, correct?
Correct.
So we are trying to establish a TIF district solely. There's no funding or anything requested from us at this point?
That's correct, and we're not anticipating that request.
Okay.
Their sole source of funding will be the purchase of the bond, and then I don't know whether they intend to try to finance that 25-year bond payment and get some upfront cash, or whether they'll just take the benefit over the period of time.
Okay.
But that is the only source of support that they're requesting at this time.
I have a loaded question. When, and you probably understand why I'm asking, is because this next phase of the downtown revitalization connects right through there.
Right. So they've already started demo.
Okay.
They're doing some scrapping of the interior, but it's a massive building,
Sure.
an intricate building. It's going to take some time to demo. But my understanding is ASAP, as soon as we can get this bond and they get it purchased, this thing's going to move forward. So we're going to have to work with their contractors to figure out timing
Okay.
next spring. So we're either not interfering with them or they're not tearing up a new trail.
Sure.
So
And with this being a hazardous site under careful watch of the EPA, I imagine there's some tight perimeter controls,
yeah, I would expect so.
because, this could probably turn into a multiple year project where we have our trail done and we do a grand opening next to a hazardous site.
Yeah, my guess is it probably won't take that. I mean, this is a firm that's done this
Okay.
dozens of times before. But yeah, I think they're anticipating being under construction on the new building probably about the same time we're thinking about trail next spring.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I wouldn't see a big concern, and keep in mind too, the Patterson phase of the West Main Street project is really just an overlay project.
Sure.
It's not a full reconstruction.
Okay.
So,
and the trail's on the east side of the road.
and yes, and the trail is on the east side of the road. So,
Sure. Okay.
They actually seem to be very excited about the fact that the trail will go right adjacent to their
Okay.
project.
Now, I realize it's already zoned industrial and the buildings are there, but again, like you said, it's been vacant for 20 years. They probably don't have any tenants yet, or if they do, it's well kept, but, I mean, are we looking at increased semi and commercial loads going through there? And
I would
do we
anticipate,
need
yeah.
to
I mean, most
look at our
likely,
street sections through
yeah,
there?
even for the lowest intensity industrial use, you're going to have some truck traffic, and there is some truck traffic that goes to the neighbor to the north too. So yeah, you would see some increase
Sure.
in non-vehicular, passenger vehicular traffic.
Ben, one question, not related really to this building, but how many other buildings around the community do we have like this? That, I know we have those out on 32 that are getting ready to be demolished
Yeah.
here sometime, and I know we got Ag Chem out there on Lafayette Avenue. Is there any other?
There's probably in terms of vacant or environmental issues, or both?
Both.
There's probably a dozen I could probably start naming off when I think about it, either vacant and or environmental issues. And if you just start talking about vacant or deteriorating single-family homes, then the number goes up quite a bit. But there's probably around 10 buildings or properties that have one or the other issue that needs to be addressed. In some
It doesn't seem like we're as bad as other communities that I see that.
For a community of this age, blue-collar community,
Yeah.
you expect this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think we're doing any better or any worse than any other
Yeah.
like communities.
Okay.
Circling back to making this a TIF, and maybe this comes from one of our consultants, is what's the forecast for the TIF funds generated from this area, I guess? I know the baseline will be after the new building is established.
If I didn't bring it with me, and I wish that's a good question. I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $90,000 worth of increment a year.
Okay.
I'm taking that back. That's before we made some adjustments. I think it's more like 100 and, it's between 100 and 150.
It's obviously not going to match anything close to what the business park is, but it's.
Right, yeah, this is.
We're not gaining anything from it right now, so.
Right, yeah, it's a drag on the economy right now.
Right.
And the community.
Okay.
So one of my questions, and Dick, thanks for bringing up that point, is that if we have these catalog of properties, even though it's not a big number, have we taken a look as a city as to how do we strategically start to clip those down? And was this part of that plan, or did this just come out of Enviro Forensics showing interest in the building?
This was, I don't know that I would say that we really had a formal plan as a city, but we had definitely been looking at that building and actually had visited a number of times before Enviro Forensics got connected. And I believe the mayor met them at a conference somewhere and then brought them up here, and we had lunch with them at one point. So it was somewhat strategic, but I wouldn't say there was a formal plan. But it's definitely been a building that's kind of been on our radar as a number of the other ones are, as Dick mentioned.
Very good.
So we definitely, knowing that this is along our trail route, anything other than what it is would be better.
Yeah. Sure. No,
yeah.
Please don't hear that question as saying that we're making the wrong choice here, in my opinion. But what I am saying is that if we have a catalog, 10, 12, a dozen, a catalog of these properties, it would probably make sense to start to prioritize that and come and have like a plan that says, if we have somebody call up that says they want this type of property, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
I think that shows a completely different message, or communicates a completely different message to that developer or somebody like Enviro Forensics.
Sure.
So just my perspective.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to dictate anything.
We've got about 4 of them on our radar right now.
Oh, very good.
So
Okay.
yeah, we're definitely working on a number of other ones too.
Just to be clear, this development's happening regardless if the RDC decides to make it a TIF district or not.
I don't know that I can necessarily say that 100%. There's still a gap in the funding because of the significant cleanup. Yes, I know they have started some demo work, but they could just as easily stop that and find a way to write the property off. So there is still there is a necessity there for some city redevelopment commission support to make sure that product that they're proposing right now happens.
Okay, very good. Other questions from the commission? Okay. Well, I think I'll do this after the resolution. I think it would be okay to move on to the reading of the resolution.
Certainly.
Please. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner and Commission. I won't read this in full. I'll just kind of hit the highlights. So the Lebanon Redevelopment Commission has studied that area in the city of Lebanon as described on Exhibit A and hereby designated as the Patterson Street Economic Development Area. The Redevelopment Commission has prepared an economic development plan for the selected economic development area. The Redevelopment Commission has caused to be prepared maps and plats, lists of the owners of the various parcels of property proposed to be acquired, an estimate of the cost of acquisition, redevelopment, and economic development. There has been presented to this meeting for consideration and approval of the Commission and Economic Development Plan for the Economic Development Area. The plan and supporting data were reviewed and considered by the Commission at this meeting. The Indiana Code permits the creation of allocation areas for the allocation and distribution of property taxes for the purposes and in the manner provided in the Indiana Code. If approved, this commission would find as follows. The plan for the economic development area promotes significant opportunities for the gainful employment of the citizens of the city. The plan for the economic development area cannot be achieved by regulatory processes or by the ordinary operation of private enterprise. But the public health and welfare will be benefited by accomplishment of the plan for the economic development area. The accomplishment of the plan for the economic development area will be a public utility and benefit. The plan for economic development area conforms to other development and redevelopment plans for the city. The Commission finds that no residents of the economic development area will be displaced by any project resulting from the plan. The plan would be, in all respects hereby approved. It will be designated as an economic development area under Section 41 of the Indiana Code, the applicable act. The entire economic development area would hereby be designated as an allocation area pursuant to the Indiana Code. That allocation area would be designated specifically as the Patterson Street allocation area. The officers of the commission would hereby be directed to make any and all required filings with the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance and the Boone County Auditor in connection with the creation of the allocation area. This resolution, together with any supporting data and together with the plan, would be submitted to the City of Lebanon Planning Commission and the Common Council of the city, and if approved by the Planning Commission and the Council, shall be submitted to a public hearing and remonstrance as provided by the Indiana Code after all public notices are completed. And finally, this resolution would take effect immediately upon its adoption by this commission if the commission so chooses.
Okay, thank you very much. So after the reading of the resolution, does the commission have any additional questions? Okay. Since this is, I know this might be not traditional, but based on the information that was presented as well, I'd welcome comment from the public if there's any questions or comments. Okay. If you have any, feel free to step up to the podium. Okay, so there'll be no comments from the public. So I would entertain a motion.
Do we have a number for the resolution?
What's the number of the resolution? It is, I don't have it on my sheet.
I believe we are awaiting that from the clerk's office, I believe.
2018-14.
Thank you.
2018-14.
President, I move.
I was just saying, thank you.
Thank you. I move we accept Resolution 2018-14 as presented this evening.
Second.
Very good. Having a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Moving on to the next agenda item, we have the claims. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments about the claims that have been presented?
I motion we pay the claims.
Second, I second that motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Very good, motion carries. Okay, that completes our agenda for this evening. Are there any questions or comments before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Very good. This meeting has been adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.